So that's the reason. Another reason why we had this tradition to steal or hide the afikomen because we want to keep the children interested. Because Seder night, it's all about Masorah, it's tradition. When someone goes to a Seder and someone's leading a Seder, he's teaching you how to lead a Seder. And that person heard it from his father heard it from his father. So now you want to teach those at the table that you want to teach them the lessons that you want to give them that night, and you want to keep their interest alive, and they should not be bored and say and soon, very soon, you could take the afikomen, and then I'm going to give you a gift at the end. That's another reason, because when the answer is because the word Masorah means tradition, and we want to always give over tradition, and we always say it's a lesson from parents to their children. We always want to make the Torah sweet for them. In fact, every single morning is a blessing that we say when we study Torah. It's called V'harevna. May the Torah always be sweet for you. May the Torah be sweet for you, sweet for your children and your grandchildren and their children. You want to always make it sweet. The Torah should be sweet like honey. That's the reason. It's another reason why we steal the afikomen or hide the afikomen. The Talmud tells us in the book of Psachim that a person should live in a city where there are dogs. Why is that? Because when there are dogs hear people walking or strangers walking, and they're going to start to bark. And when there are dogs in a city, that prevents robbery. And when the Jewish people left Egypt, there were a lot of dogs in Egypt, but the dogs did not bark. And because the dogs did not bark, we're reminding us the lesson that if you wanted to steal in Egypt the night when the Jewish people left, it was a miracle you could have stolen something, because even though dogs always bark when someone comes to the door and they sense something, even they sense danger, since the dogs did not bark, we steal the afikomen to remind us of the great miracle that happened with Hashem. That Hashem let the Jewish people go, and they were relaxed, and they weren't nervous when we left. So that's Yachas. That's breaking the middle matzah. Then comes Magid. Magid means that to tell. Haggadah, Magid, to tell, and we start Holach Ma'anya. We take the broken matzah, and we lift it up, and we say, "This is the bread of affliction." It says, "Kol dichvin yeseh v'yechol." Anyone who's hungry, let the person come in. Anyone who's needy, let the person come in. And we say, today we're here, but next year, Mir Tashem, we should be in Yerushalayim. Halach ma'anya. The Talmud teaches us that if a person gives someone tzedakah, you receive 6 blessings. If you give tzedakah and you give a kind word, you receive 11 blessings. Doesn't cost, you're giving anyhow. At least say to a person, "Have a nice day. Hashem should bless you." Ha is spelled in Hebrew Hey Aleph, and every single letter in the Jewish alphabet has a numerical value. Hey is 5, Aleph is 1, and that's 6. So if a person gives tzedakah, he receives 6 blessings. Lachma comes from the word lechem, which means bread. You're giving someone food to eat. Anya comes from the word ani, which means a person in need, a poor person. And it says Anya, the last letters is Yud Aleph. The Yud is 10, Aleph is 1, and that's 11. So when a person just gives tzedakah, you receive 6 blessings. And here is telling us, if a person gives a kind word also, "Have a nice day, Hashem should bless you," your person receives 11 blessings. Now comes Manishtana. Manishtana, everyone knows Manishtana, like one of the highlights. Who says Manishtana? The youngest, the oldest. Anyone can say Manishtana. If a person's sitting by themselves, someone has to say Manishtana. You have your own Seder, you have to say Manishtana. During COVID, unfortunately, people were sitting by themselves. Who's asking the Manishtana? You say the Manishtana to yourself. Now, in many Haggadahs, right before the word Manishtana, these are the 4 questions, it says, Kan haben sho'al. It says, this is where the children ask. Kan, this is where the children ask. That's why we say the children are supposed to ask the question, Manishtana. This is one of the 2 times in the Haggadah. We call this in Hebrew an Eis Ratzon, a special time of favor. What does it mean? It means that there's certain times in the parts of the Haggadah where we have a better chance of our prayers being answered. And this is where the children ask. We ask Hashem, whatever you need. In many families, they take like a 30-second to a 1 minute pause at this time. This is where the children ask, and people take out a book of Tehillim and they say a psalm, any psalm you want, and it's like a silent meditation, a silent tefillah, and you ask Hashem for whatever you want in life. This is a special time. Now, when the Jewish people left Egypt, we left b'chi pazon. B'chi pazon means quickly. We left with just the matzah upon our backs. And the Torah is teaching us that on Seder night, it can happen again, like just like that. There's an expression, a sentence, it says, Yeshua's Hashem keherafayim. In a blink of an eye, a person's life could turn for good. And everyone has something going on. It could be, God forbid, a health issue. It could be making a living. It could be something with children. There's always something going on. And sometimes the answer or help could take a long time. But on Seder night, like it says from our Gutmacher, b'chi pazon, it can happen like this. People's lives have changed with the proper prayer at the Seder. So that's Manishtana. So you can mark it down in your Haggadah right before Manishtana. Take a 30-second or 1 minute pause. Everyone can bring a book of Psalms to the table. You say to yourself, it takes 30 seconds, it takes 40 seconds. It's a very, very good investment. There's a story with the Belzer Rebbe that the Rebbe asked his little son, his boy, like 9 years old, okay, ask the Manishtana. And the boy refused to ask the Manishtana. He was shaking his head. He doesn't want to ask questions. So the father says, say the Manishtana. And the boy doesn't want to say the Manishtana. So the Rebbe says, why don't you want to ask the Manishtana? So the boy says, Tati, father, how can I ask a question on my father? I can't ask questions to my father. And this made the father very happy. Okay, you could ask me the Manishtana. Another situation that we have at the Seder is we wear a kittel. People wear white. What's the reason why a person wears a kittel? Because before we discuss the simanim, if you have 15 simanim, kadesh, rachaz, karpas, yachaz, 15 simanim, 60 words. There are 60 letters in the simanim. The blessing of the Kohanim, Yivrechacha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yor Hashem panav elecha v'chinecha, Yisa Hashem. You also have 15 words and 60 letters. So there's a connection between the blessing of the Kohanim and also the Simanim, the signs at the Seder. And that's why Seder night is a time to receive blessings and to also give blessings. And the Kohen Gadol in the times of the temple always wore white. That's another connection why we wear white. Also, when you wear white, any stain on the kittel shows up. Any stain on the kittel shows up. And a person should not say, like, it's just a little thing, what's the big deal? But look at that stain. So we have to always be careful how we act, what we do, and how we conduct ourselves. We always want to create a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification for God's name. I saw this someone sent me an email today. You know, the TSA officers are not getting paid, and the crazy lines at all the airports. So someone said he was at the airport and he saw someone going through the long line of security. When he finally came to the TSA officers, he took out a bunch of gift cards and he gave it to them. Gift cards. And the man's wearing a yarmulke. He says, you know what kind of Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of that is? That people are saying, wow, that's amazing. You know, people will be traveling for Pesach. If someone even if one person does that every single day, and you give a gift card to a TSA officer, we're creating a Kiddush Hashem. And in today's environment, we could use all the help we can get. So if someone just does that, people will have a good memory of that religious Jew going through security. Okay, so then we had the four questions, and now we have the question, and now we have the answer. What's the answer? Avodim Hayinu, we were slaves in Egypt, and it says it's a mitzvah to speak about what happened to the Jewish people. V'chol hamarba, anyone who says a lot about Seder night l'saper to discuss when the Jewish people left Egypt, harizem meshubach, everyone is praised. It might be a good idea. You having guests at your Seder table. You might want to ask the person if they feel comfortable. Maybe they want to add something. They want to, if they want to bring a bottle of wine, that's great. If you want to say some thoughts about the Haggadah, thoughts about Pesach, it's something to think about. And also, many families, since Seder night is a time for Hakaras Hatov, for gratitude, the families together, you say Shechiyanu, and many homes also before the Seder, they go around the table just for a few moments, and they ask anyone who wants to say what they're grateful for. What are they grateful for? I went to someone's house in Florida this past year, and it was Friday night, and he told me before we have a tradition in our home, before we start the Shalom Aleichem Friday night, we go around the table and we ask everyone to say something you're grateful for. It's a nice thing because you have to always be grateful every single day to Hashem. In fact, many times in life, people are just grateful after they go through a challenge. But when the challenge is over, people forget about the challenges. Let's like when a person, God forbid, has let's say a skiing accident and you hurt yourself. So at the time you're praying everything should be okay. How many people thank Hashem every single day after that everything is now they could walk and they can run? In the morning, I pray next to a person before he starts his shachris, puts on his talis and tefillin. I see he has the same routine every single morning. He takes out a hospital bracelet and he takes it out from his talis bag and he kisses it. And I see he closes his eyes and he says, "Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem." He went through a serious medical issue and it was mamash and nace. And every single day, Baruch Hashem, he's 100% now, but he never forgets. He just never forgets. And then the next part of the Haggadah, we have the story of Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva. They're sitting in Bnei Brak. Bnei Brak, near Tel Aviv, it's near Ben Gurion Airport. It's in the news every day. There's always ballistic missiles coming in there. And, people are davening every single day. I told my class the last couple of weeks, if you have some extra time every single day, say one chapter of Tehillim. Everyone has some downtime. You're waiting someplace. Say one chapter. It could be it could be the smallest chapter, because you never know that one chapter of the Tehillim can be like an interceptor that's blocking a ballistic missile coming from Hezbollah or Iran. So the question over here is, they're in Bnei Brak, and why are they sitting in by Rabbi Akiva Seder? They don't have their own family to sit with. Why Rabbi Akiva Seder? So I heard a beautiful interpretation that this took place when the temple was destroyed, and and they were all depressed. They were all down. So why Rabbi Akiva? Because if you look at all the stories of Rabbi Akiva in the Talmud, he always looked at the glass as half full. He always had confidence. He was never down. What was the famous story of Rabbi Akiva at the end of the Masechta Makos, where he was with these other sages, and they were on Mount Scopus, Har Tzofim, and they saw from a distance a fox walking on the Temple Mount. The temple was destroyed, and the rabbi started to cry. Rabbi Akiva started to laugh, and they said, "Rabbi Akiva, how could you laugh? There's an animal walking by the Holy of Holies." Yeah, and we know that only the Kohen Gadol could walk there on Yom Kippur, the holiest day, the holiest man, in the Holy of Holies. And now there's an animal walking there, and that's why we're crying. How could you laugh? He says, "That's why I'm laughing, because the fact that your prophecy has come true, that the prophets, Jeremiah said that the temple will be destroyed, animals will be walking, but that has been fulfilled now. The next prophecy will be fulfilled also. That once again, men, women, and children will be dancing in the streets of Yerushalayim." And they said, oh, and that's why I'm laughing. And they said, Rabbi Akiva nichamtane, Rabbi Akiva, you have given us comfort. So all these rabbis wanted to be with Rabbi Akiva. You want to be around people who are positive. Some people, it's a, how you doing? Oh, terrible. This is no good. And that puts you in a bad mood. I know someone, every time you see him, you ask him, how's it going? He always says, fantastic, fantastic. When someone says that, all of a sudden you put a smile upon your face. And that's the expression. When you think positive, it will be positive. The Rebbe would always say, your face is public property. Wherever you go, if you have a farbissant face, you have a down face, you're going to bring people down with you. If you always have that positive face and people look at you, you put a person in a good mood. That's the reason why they went to Rabbi Akiva's Seder. Then comes Rabbi Elazar ben Azar. He says, I'm like 70 years old. Now, when someone says to you, how old are you? Oh, I'm like 70. I'm like 20. I'm like, what do you mean? Either you are or you're not. What do you mean you're like 70? Famous story in the book of Brachas where there was a whole dispute with the sages. They removed the Nasi, the prince Rabbi Gamliel, from his position, and they wanted to bring a new person, a new Nasi, who's going to take over the leadership. And they asked Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, we want to nominate you to take over the leadership. And he was 18 years old. He says, before I give an answer, I need to speak to my wife. Interesting. So this is one of the sources. Chachmas Nashim Bansa Besa in Judaism, the wisdom of the Jewish wife builds a Jewish home. That's why you go to a chuppah. The women are going around 7 times building a fence of protection around their husband. My father always, he was the rabbi's rabbi. Someone asked him, Rabbi, why do you go around 7 times? So my father used to say by a chuppah, because many couples only have happiness once, twice, 3 times a week. We want to give a bracha, a blessing to this couple. They should have happiness 7 days a week. So he asked his wife, and so initially his wife says, you know what, I'm not sure if it's a good idea because, the first rabbi they fired him. They're going to fire you also. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, to be in this position, it's like having a crystal glass. Just to drink from it once, it's worth it. Okay, she said, but then she said, you're young, you're 18 years old, no one's going to respect you. That's why that night he went to sleep, he woke up, he was completely white. He had 18 strands of white hairs in his beard, and now he looked like an older man. So he says, I'm like 70 years old. I'm really 18. So our sages teach us that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a Gilgal, a reincarnation of Samuel the prophet. And Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet, died when he was 52. 52 and 18 is 70. And the word Shana, I'm like 70 years old. Shana is spelled Shin Nun Hey. Shin stands for Shmuel, Nun stands for Neshama, Hey stands for Hanavi. That he was the Gilgal reincarnation of Samuel the prophet. Remember the story of Shmuel Hanavi. We read this on the first day of Rosh Hashanah in the Haftorah. Hannah could not conceive for many, many years. And Eli, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, accused Hannah of being drunk. And she said, I'm not drunk from wine, I'm drunk from sorrow. I just want a child. Can you give me a child? I need a bracha for a child. And now Eli has to apologize because the law is if you accuse someone and you're wrong, besides apologizing, you have to give them a bracha. And he gave her a bracha. She should have a son. Who is that son? Shmuel. Shmuel stands for Shmuel. Shema Kel Hashem. Listen to my voice. That's that story. Then we have Baruch Hamakam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenasan Torah L'Am Yisrael. What does the word Baruch mean? Blessed is Hashem, blessed is He, blessed is the one who gave us the Torah. And the word Makam refers to Hashem's name. Now, when do we use Makam? The word Makam means place. Hashem is everywhere. God forbid someone's sitting Shiva, when you leave, you say, Hamakam Yinachem Eskem. May God, Makam, give you comfort, because only Hashem can give you comfort. The real comfort comes from Hashem. So this is an introduction to the 4 sons, the theme of 4. So our sages ask a question, just say, Baruch HaMakam, the 4 sons. How come it has to say the word Baruch, 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 Baruch 4 times? What's the reason behind that? Chacham, the wise one, Rasha, the evil one, Tam, the simple one, the one who can't ask any questions. So the answer is this is from Hashim and Schwab. Every time I quote the name of a sage who's in the world of souls, Sifsosas of their bones move in the grave, and we're giving them life again. And the Zohar says when you mention the teachings of a holy sage who is in in the world of souls, you're bringing life to them, measure for measure, because we are giving them life. The next prayer we're going to say after this class, they're going to say, because you brought me life, I'm bringing your prayers life to the heavenly throne. So how come it says the word bracha four times when we speak about the four sons? So our sages answer, because he's answered, Rabbi Schwab answered, because you could be sitting at your Seder table and you see this son and this son and this kid and this girl and this daughter, and they're not the children or the grandchildren that you expected them to be. They might be causing a little of agmas nefesh, a little aggravation. So Rav Schwab says, Seder night, every child is a bracha at the table. Every child is a bracha at a table. And a lot of times you have children who might cause their parents agmas nefesh, which means aggravation, sagi dalbanim. And they asked the Brisker Rebbe of Soloveitchik, and he says he's seen this so many times, that so many times you have children who are weak in school and they're struggling, and their siblings are much stronger than them. And fast forward 10, 15 years, that child who was weak, he becomes a superstar, or she becomes a superstar. Why is that? So he says because when the mother is benching licht, when she blesses the candles Friday night, she's praying for all her children. But for the child who's struggling, she's crying. She's crying. And the gates of tears are never closed. There was a story, I heard a beautiful story from a Pesach Kron, he should be well. There was a medical convention in Eretz Yisrael, and they had all these neurologists from all over the world over there, and the one who was presenting was the chief of neurology from the Mayo Clinic. And he sees every single day at the convention, he sees a chassid over there. He sees a chassid over there. And the chassid is asking questions. So this doctor, this famous doctor, is asking this chassid, like, are you a physician? He says, no. He has a daughter who has epilepsy. And he goes to all these conventions because maybe he wants to see if there's some new technique, a new medication to help his daughter. So this chassid is asking the doctor, so where are you going to be for Shabbos? He says, I'm at the King David. King David, come to me. So what kind of Shabbos is the King David? You come to me. I'm a Mei Sharim. Okay, he didn't take no for an answer. He comes to the house. There's like 11 children in the house, and they're all there at the Shabbos table. So this chassid says to the doctor, on the side, I want you to let me know which one of my daughters has epilepsy. I want you to see, because you can't tell. Let me see if you could figure it out. So after the father blessed all the children Friday night, that's a tradition. So the doctor mentions to this chassid, the father, third girl on the left. He said, how do you know? How do I know? I saw how you blessed her. Blessing, a different kind of blessing. So those tears and the blessing, they carry a lot of weight. And these are the four sons. It says Chacham, the wise son, Rasha, the evil son. Why is Rasha, the evil son, mentioned next to the Chacham? It should be Chacham, Tom, the simple one, and the one who can't ask any question. Rasha should be on the bottom. How come he's next to the Chacham? So I heard this insight. When someone is a Chacham, Chacham means that you're smart. A Chacham could be a Chacham, but sometimes a wise person has no seichel, no common sense. You say to a person, you're so smart. What were you thinking? You have no seichel. And sometimes you can be very smart and you hang around the wrong people, and you say, well, people say, why are you hanging around this person? Where's your seichel? This person is not good. Is not good for you. He doesn't benefit. She doesn't benefit your well-being. So you have to be a chacham, and you have to have seichel also. And then we have the blessing of Baruch Shomer Haftachaso Yisrael. Is Hashem who keeps his pledge. What do you mean keeping his pledge? It's King Solomon says Tov Shem Mishem and Tov. Better a good name than good oil. A good oil, Shem and Shemen is a play on words. Shem is a name and Shemen is oil. And what does that mean? A good oil, like a nice perfume, you could smell for like 4 or 5 feet, but a good name you hear all over the world, especially in business. When someone's asking questions, especially people asking questions for shidduchim, do you know this person? Do you know this family? First reaction, what's the first response? Or if someone says, well, what do you like to know? When someone like says right away, amazing, amazing people, and one of the greatest character traits, the greatest response that a person can give. You know this person? Their word is a word. Their word is a word. When they say something, that's money in the bank. So many years ago, there was like it was pouring, it was freezing, and my mother, the Rebbitzin, she went to my sister's house, and the weather was terrible. And my sister says, "Ima, why'd you come tonight? It's not the weather's terrible." So my mother said, "Because I promised you, my granddaughter Nachami, she was a little girl, I'm coming over tonight. You don't break your promise to children. You don't break. You have to. Your word is a word. You have to have your word has to be a word." Then comes a very famous song that we sing at the Haggadah, V'hi Sha'amda. V'hi Sha'amda, which means in every generation, the anti-Semites, they want to try to harm us. Ella shebachol davar dar, in every generation, amdum aleinu l'chaloseinu, they try to annihilate us. V'hakadosh baruch hu bar Hashem matzilenu miyadam. Hashem saves us. Hashem rescues us. Look what's going on in the world right now. October 7th, remember, we're defending ourselves. College campuses, building those encampments and BDS, this and that. And what's going on? How come they don't see our side? When they killed thousands of people in Iran, where are the college students protesting? They didn't care. They don't care. It's only when the Jews are getting involved, something, and we're doing something to protect ourselves. So then they stop protesting. But we know every single generation the anti-Semitism is still, and it's roaring today. So we ask Hashem to please protect us and to please watch over us. So that then the Haggadah goes on that the Egyptians they gave us terrible back-breaking work. It says avoda kosher mikotza ruach and avoda kosher. We couldn't even listen to what Moshe was telling us that you're going to be taken out very soon because we didn't want to hear it. How come we didn't want to hear it? Initially, they believed Moshe. How come they stopped believing Moshe? Because every time Moshe said, "You're going out," Paro changed his mind, and Moshe had to break his promise. And when you keep on telling a person, I'm doing this, it's happening," and then you keep on changing your mind, people are not going to believe you anymore. And then Moshe, he himself couldn't convince the people. Why? Because he himself became a little depressed. And it says he himself was the one, mikotza ruach, from shortness of breath and hard work. There was no hard work, but he himself couldn't express the confidence that I'm taking you out. And that's another reason why Noach, the story of Noach, he cannot convince anyone to go with him into the ark, to the Teva, because Rashi says he himself did not believe that the flood is going to happen. And the Torah is teaching us business 101, sales 101. If you don't believe in your product, you can't sell it. Like if you're excited about Shabbos, excited about the Haggadah, and people say, you got to hear this. You know, when you have teachers who are excited about the work, and you want to be in that class, but someone says, here's a class. This is very interesting. Boring. You have to show excitement. A person has to show passion in the lessons and also in the Torah that a person teaches. So the first time that we mentioned there's a special time for prayer was by Manish Tana. This is where the children ask. The next time it says Vanitzak. Vanitzak means we cried out to Hashem. This is the second part. Right before Vanitzak, you take a 30-second, 40-second pause. Everyone takes out their Tehillim, and we have those personal prayers. Whatever a person needs in life, Vanitzak. Seder night, it's a special night for prayer. It's a special night where Hashem says, ask, just ask what you need. This is a special time. Like we said, Rav Gutmacher says, Seder night, but even if a person has a situation that you say, what's going to be? It's impossible. There's no such thing. Yes, it's impossible. No such thing. You just ask all those hostages who last year Pesach who were in the dungeons, and look at them now. Baruch Hashem, the ones who are out. And they said, we never thought this would happen. And I guarantee when they're going to be saying Banitzak and Manish Tana, Kana Ben Shalom, they're going to say this with extra kavana, extra feeling over here. So Haggadah goes on. And then we have the 10 plagues. Dam, Tzefardeh. What do? We have in the cup of wine, the wine is filled up. Remember, someone should pour the wine for you, and we take our pinky and we take out some wine. We take out some wine, blood, frogs, lice. And why do we do that? Because King Solomon says, "Benifol oivecha al tisamech," which means when your enemy falls, don't be joyous. Yeah, don't be joyous. Hashem's running the world over here. So even though we're happy with the 10 plagues and the Jews left, still we pour out from the cup of blessing, from the cup of blessing to show we're not so happy. Of course we're happy, we're free, but the Jew always has to have rachmanos on every single person of creation. In many families, when it comes to the 10 plagues, someone acts out the plagues. They make all these figures for little kids, frogs and animals, and to make it exciting, you make the noise of the wild animals. So every year I like saying over which was one of the most difficult plagues. They're all very difficult. So the answer is this, could be many answers, but one answer is from Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky. He said Choshech. Choshech means darkness. Why? Because the Torah says it was so dark that one brother cannot recognize his own brother. And you couldn't see anyone next to you. By all the plagues, you could talk to the person next to you. You could commiserate. This is terrible. This is no good. And like here in the city, when during the winters, freezing and this and that, and you could talk to someone. If you have no one to talk to, if you're all alone, this is the worst thing. Like solitary confinement. And that's the story in the Gemara of Chuni Hamagal. Chuni Hamagal, he came back and he fell asleep for 70 years, and he came back to his town and he says, "I'm Chuni. You're Chuni. What? Chuni's dead for 70 years. What are you doing? You're an imposter." No one wanted to talk to him, and he was heartbroken, and he said the famous verse. If no one talks to me, if I'm all alone, O chavrusa, O misusa, either be my friend or it's death. It's so important that a person should not be alone. You have to have at least one friend, someone to talk to. King Solomon says two are always better than one. Something's bothering you. You should be able to talk it out to someone. And then we have Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, of course, was a famous sage, Rabbi Akiva. And we said before, how come they came to Rabbi Akiva's Seder? Because he was always positive. He always saw the glass as half full. Rabbi Akiva was married to Rachel. The famous story, Rachel she was the daughter of the richest man in Yerushalayim, Kalba Savua. Rabbi Akiva goes away for 24 years. He comes back with 24,000 students. They have no idea who Rachel was. She's destitute. As Rabbi Akiva is coming back with 24,000 students, everyone wants to see the great sage Rabbi Akiva. And his wife is there. She's in rags, and she's pushing forward, and the students are pushing her away. It's like, what are you doing over here? So the Talmud says Rabbi Akiva uttered one of the most famous lines in the entire Talmud. He told his 24,000 students, Shali, Shalachem, Shalah. What does that mean? He told the students, whatever Torah I have, whatever Torah you have, is only because of that woman. It's only because of her. Show her respect. I think this is a good time when we mention Rabbi Akiva's name at every single Seder. Someone should get up and say, we want to thank the woman of the house who cleaned, who did the cooking. Someone should show recognition to that person. You know what it means to make a Seder? Well, the Jewish women, they were exhausted. They finally come down, they sit down at the Seder. They can't keep their eyes open. Hashem sends, I think, malachim, angels from the heavens above to keep them, keep their heads up. Who's thanking them? You got to stand up, and she want to show at this point right over here. You could say shali shalachem shalo. This whole meal here, this whole seder, the whole table of royalty is only because of her, of this woman right over here. I think that's a good time to say it. Then of course we have Dayenu, and everyone knows everyone starts singing Dayenu. Let's say a person is sort of spacing out. Seder is going to be very late this year. You can't start the Seder during the day, and you're falling asleep. So at this next part of the Haggadah, you must get up. If you don't get up right now, you're not going to fulfill your obligation. What's the part? Rabbi Gamliel says, Kol Shalo Omer, whoever does not say these three things at the Pesach, you are not fulfilling your obligation. Pesach, this refers to the Korban Pesach, matzah, and you show the matzah, and moror, and this refers to the bitter herbs. Okay, so the person has to have in mind, make sure you're alert over there. Then we go to matzah, moror. When a person eats maror, sometimes maror is very, very strong, and people start to cry. I remember my father-in-law, his neshama should have an aliyah. He used to actually chew on pieces of maror, and he would start crying, and he would start wheezing every year. So I heard this beautiful thought about sukkahs and maror. I heard this from Rabbi Daniel Kleiman. He says when you sit in the sukkah every year, it's usually cold, and a person leaves the comfort of their home, and you're going into exile. And sometimes it's not so comfortable. So we say you're sitting in a sukkah, you're leaving your home, the comforts of your home, you're sleeping in a sukkah. This should be the only time you have to go out of your comfort zone for the whole year by sitting in the sukkah. Mora. You're eating maror and it's causing you to cry a little bit. This should be the only tears that you should have this year. The tears of maror. And the only tears that you should have are going to be tears of joy and happiness walking a child to the chuppah, celebrating beautiful festive occasions. And then it says in every single generation, a person has to see themselves like you yourself went out of Egypt. What does that mean? Last year when we spoke about the Haggadah, we are saying, people, the hostages, how do you imagine you're there? This year, what's going on in Eretz Yisrael? There's no school for the last 4 weeks. Every single day, every night, the people are running into shelters. How do you feel? How do you feel what's going on over there? In 1976, when the terrorists hijacked that Air France plane to Entebbe, Uganda. Isn't it interesting that then Idi Amin from Uganda, Yamach Shemam, was the biggest anti-Semite. Today, the head of Uganda says that he's ready to join Eretz Yisrael, to send troops to help defend Eretz Yisrael. Can you figure this out? So they had all these hostages on the plane, and and Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, they had a kinnis, a gathering to say Tehillim in the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. And Chaim Shmulevitz, he was so sick, he came out of his sick bed, and there were hundreds of students and people in the shul. They're going to say Tehillim for the hostages, and they were threatened they're going to kill them. And he walks in. No one expects him to come. He's walking slowly to the front of the Holy Ark. He kisses the Holy Ark. He turns around, and he says, "In a few moments, we're going to be saying Tehillim for the hostages." When you say Tehillim for the hostages, I want everyone to imagine that it's your mother, it's your father, it's your son, it's your daughter on that plane. And the people who were there, the ceiling was shaking from the Tehillim. And that what happened that Motzei Shabbos. That's when they had the famous rescue that Prime Minister Netanyahu's brother Yoni Hashem should gives an neshama. He was the only one who was killed. Hashem should gives an neshama and aliyah. So I think when we mention this in every generation, we should feel the pain of our brethren in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem should bring shalom there very, 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 very quickly. And then we say the first part of Hallel, and then we have the second cup of wine, Berei Pri Hagofen. Then we wash our hands, and we have the matzahs. So how do we have the matzahs? This is how we have the matzah. So now we have the bigger matzah that was the afikomen. That's not here. So we have two and a half matzahs. We take all three matzahs, all three, and we say the blessing hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and then we put the bottom matzah down. So now we have one and a half, and we say the blessing achilas matzah. I would suggest getting a good Haggadah in English where the instructions are there, so you know exactly what you're doing. But that it's very, very simple. And then we eat the matzah. There's also a big mitzvah. One of the requirements on Seder night is to eat everything haseba. What is haseba? We lean on our left side. We lean. Many homes, which also people do this, you put a pillow behind every chair. Again, royals, aristocrats. Why are we leaning on our left side? We're eating the matzah, drinking the cup of wine. We don't lean when we eat the maror, because aristocrats, when they used to have a meal, they used to lean because the food pipes on your left side, easier to digest. So that's the reason why we do that. And then we have the matzah. When you have the matzah, you should always have other boxes of matzah, because there's not going to be enough matzah from the matzahs that's by the Seder plate. That's to fulfill your obligation. Then we eat maror. So what happens is people take some maror, you take some romaine lettuce, and you take also grated maror, and you put it together, and you say the blessing, and this is the blessing achilas maror, for eating the maror. And then what happens after that? We take korech. Korech is the famous sandwich of Hillel. Sandwich of Hillel. We also put a little charoses on the maror. We shake it off, and we say zecher lemikdash Hillel. This is in remembrance of in the temple as Hillel used to do. He took a sandwich, and you take the romaine lettuce, you put charosas and more in it, and you put it together, and you take with matzah, you make a sandwich, and we eat it, and that's the remembrance of Hillel. There's a famous question: eating maror, and there's no leaning by maror. We said this before. So how come by the sandwich, when there's maror in the sandwich, how come we're leaning haseba by the sandwich of Hillel? So the answer is, so the Chacham Shlomo answers that matzah it's called lechem of Amunah, trust and faith of Hashem. Maror is bitter. When you take your bitterness, when you take your challenges, and you wrap it in Amunah, faith in the matzah, Hashem says, "I'm going to take away the maror from your life." And when you have that kind of belief, Amunah, trust, and bitachon in Hashem, that's why we lean, even though we're eating maror.
But could you say that again?
So when a person eat, the reason why we're leaning by, even though it's maror, because matzah represents the bread of emunah, trust and faith in Hashem. Maror is bitterness. So our sages teach us, take the challenges you have in your life, even though it's a challenge. If you wrap it in emunah and you say, Hashem, I know you're in charge of my life. Hashem says, I see you have this belief in me. And then the rabbis explain, this is how we're going to remove the bitterness or the challenge in your life, and that's something you can lean about, because you have this trust and faith in Hashem at the Seder. Okay, and then we have Birchas Hamazon, and we say we say the blessing. There's a very interesting point here in Birchas Hamazon. In one of the blessings we see in Birchas Hamazon, it says Harachman, I bless my father and my mother. Let's say your parents are not alive. How do you bless your father? It says it here in the blessing Birchat Hamazon. So when I was sitting Shiva for the Rebbitzin, a counselor of mine comes in for the Shiva call, Shiva house. He was there for 5 minutes. I haven't seen this counselor in like 30 years, 40 years. And he tells me that the Belzer Rebbe says that even if you have lost a parent, when you say great Birchat Hamazon, you mention your father and you say their name, that their soul should be uplifted in the heavens above. Avi Mori, Imi Marasi, my beloved mother, you mention them, and you say that their neshama should have an aliyah. So even though they're not here, you still mention them. He came for 5 minutes, he left, and he really fulfilled the mitzvah of giving me comfort. Next comes the third cup of wine, and then comes the cup of Elijah the prophet. So we have the cup of Elijah the prophet. We have usually if you have these big cups and we fill it up. Like I said before, when I was growing up, the Rebbetzin were like we felt Eliyahu Hanavi was in the room. We felt, we felt he was in the room. So so we opened the door and you open. And it's called the night of watching. You're not afraid to open the door and you ask Eliyahu Hanavi, ask Eliyahu, we have so many things that we need to take care of. Please come quickly and bring the redemption for the Jewish people. I read a story that, again, Seder memories, how this young man said growing up in Williamsburg in 1944, World War II, he said with the families are getting together, his uncle and his parents, and he said my first cousin was not there because he was in the army and he sent a telegram that he may get leave and he may come for Seder, but he wasn't showing up. He wasn't showing up. So so what should we do? So we couldn't wait. And then this little boy, he was 9 years old. His job was to open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi, and he goes to open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi, and he says, "He's here! He's here! He's here! Who's here?" He says, he says, cousin David is here. Cousin David came. So what happened? So this cousin David was able to come, but he surprised the family. He was waiting by the door. It was a screen door, and he waited for opening the door for Eliyahu Hanavi. He wanted to make a grand entrance. So he writes in the story that he wishes this story could have ended better, but a year later, someone told him he's leaving yeshiva, the little boy. He says, "Go to your uncle's house quickly." Why? Why? Don't ask any questions. And he says this time there was no smiling, and this time his uncle is sitting on the floor with a yahrzeit candle because they got the dreaded telegram that Uncle David was killed fighting the Nazis. So he says that every single year when he opens the door, I've been by many Seders in my life, the last 50 years. I'll never forget when when my cousin David was at the door, and I said, "He's here, he's here." I'll never forget that opening of the door. So that's the story of Eliyahu Hanavi. What do you do with the wine in the cup? Many traditions. My father-in-law used to have a tradition that after we escort Eliyahu Hanavi back outside, what do? We take a little of the wine and we pour it in everyone's cup, and that should be for the fourth cup of wine. We have a few more lessons over here, and then we have Hallel. And when you say Hallel, it says Anu Hashem Hoshiano, Anu Hashem Hoshiano. The word Hoshia means Yeshua. It's the biggest salvation. Hatz, Hatzola means to save. When someone says this person needs a Yeshua, it's the biggest salvation. Seder night, the night of prayer, the night of the heavens are open, a person can have a big Yeshua, a big salvation from any situation that is bothering them. Okay, so then we have the fourth cup of wine, and then the Seder concludes before the songs at the end. Chad Gadya Chemiyodea for Nirtza. What is Nirtza? Chasal Sidur Pesach Yilchoso. The Seder is now concluded in accordance with its laws and its statutes, and we sing the song Chasal Sidur Pesach. And how does and then we say Lashana Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Yerushalayim. Just two more points over here. How come we don't say Manishtana on Rosh Hashanah? Why not? Because on Rosh Hashanah we also dip twice. We dip the apple in the honey and the chal in the honey. So how come we say Manishtana on Seder night, the two dippings, the mora and the charoses, and also the vegetable and the salt water? How come we don't say Manishtana on Rosh Hashanah night? So there was a holy Jew named Mendel Weiss. His neshama should have an aliyah. And he says, you know why we don't dip? Do you know why we don't say Manishtana on Rosh Hashanah night when we're dipping into the honey? Because no one's asking questions when you have honey in your life. People only ask questions like, why me? Why me? When things are tough. When there's honey in your life, you're not even thinking about it. When the check comes every single week, when Baruch Hashem, everyone is healthy and everything is going well, no questions. The Torah is teaching us when things are well, when things are Baruch Hashem well, that's when you really have to daven. And that's the famous expression, it's better to daven, to pray from inspiration than desperation. Every single day you have to say Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. When Rav Ram Pam came home from the hospital, from the major surgery, he says you can't take anything for granted. And every single day you have to say, and that's why you say Hodul Hashem Kitov, thank you Hashem every single day. Every single day I'm thanking Hashem. Just one more story over here. I just want to finish with this with this last blessing. 1 second. Okay, this is the last story, and then we'll give everyone a bracha for the Seder. So this story, it's called Manishtana. I cut it out like many years ago. I found it in my Pesach file. I don't know how old this is. It's written by a young lady named Razy Siegel. I don't I fantastic story. Why is this night different than all other nights of the whole year? And this is how this is what she wrote. Tonight, Seder night is different. I'm here with my children and my sister and her family, and we're sitting in my parents' house at the royal Seder table, the Shulchan Malachim, the table of the kings. My mother's best china, my father's white kittel. But Manishtana, this night is different because my father, he's 77 years old, and he's under the spell of dementia. My father started to forget things. He got lost on the way to shul. He didn't recognize his closest friends. My mother took him to the doctor, and he was diagnosed with this harsh illness, and we're devastated. But now we're at the Seder. At every Seder in my life, I can remember my father was on such a high from the moment he came home from shul. The singing, the dancing with myself and my sister, speaking about the 10 plagues, Hashem's miracles. But this year I'm watching my father struggle to remain aware of what's going on around him, and my heart is breaking. Then tonight, something strange happened. Somehow on this holy night, the holy night of the Seder, where your prayers have an incredible power, something happened. My father begins to sing beautiful songs like he used to sing, and he's in a different world. His rich voice penetrates my heart and my soul. I don't want him to stop, and it feels like old times. My father's physician told us that people with dementia gain from singing and listening to their own voices. It makes their brain more responsive. But I know something else is happening here on Seder night. We reach the climax of the Seder, Chasal Siddur Pesach, and we say Lashana Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Yerushalayim. And all of a sudden, my father grabs my hand and my sister's hand, and my father closes his eyes, and we lift our voices, and together we dance. Manishtana, how this night is different. Why is this night different from all other nights? During every Seder I've had with my father, he spent the whole night teaching us about the miracles Hashem did for us throughout our history. But tonight, my father is a miracle. I think it's a big lesson in life that Seder night is the night of Emunah, trust and faith. Yeshua's Hashem Geherifyin. In a blink of an eye, a person's life can turn. So I want to give everyone a bracha. And all these lessons from tonight's class, even if you took even just one lesson, we should grow from that one lesson. And this week's Haftorah in Shabbos Hagadol, the last lines of the prophet says, "V'heshev leiv avos al banim, v'leiv banim avosam," which means Hashem will restore the heart of fathers to children and the heart of children to their fathers. Hinei anochi sholeach lachem. I'm sending you Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. He's coming because the great day is coming. It's almost the end. He's saying the great day is coming. So I want to wish everyone a bracha that may this Pesach bring us incredible Yeshuas, Refuas, those who need shidduchim, children, health, blessing with children. The rabbis would always say nachas, nachas from ourselves. My father would always say, if you go to a Jewish bookstore, you go to a lecture, you go to a lecture, and so someone was asking Rabbi, is it worth buying this book? My father would say, if you learn one thing from this book, it's worth everything. You go to a lecture, you learn just one point, it's worth everything. And Ray Salanta used to always conclude all his speeches, and he would say, if just one person learned one thing from tonight's class, I hope that one person is myself. Good night, good Yontiv. May Pesach bring us incredible Yeshua, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you so much for coming on to the class. Good night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Rabbi, thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank
God bless you.
you.
Chag Sameach.
Chag
Hag
Sameach.
Sameach.
Chag Sameach,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Who is that? Thank you.
Oh, Texas. Texas two-step.
Hi. We're all going to be more knowledgeable about the Seder because of Rabbi Young Grace. Thank you.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
really good. It was
Oh,
really good. Thank you, Yis.
Wonderful.
my house guest.
Right. Your permanent house guest.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you
Good
so much.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
I really appreciate it. Shabbat Shalom.
You're
All
a
the best.
rock
Thank you.
star. You're a
Amen.
rock star.
Shkoyach. Thank you.
Good night.